Changes to the Kadai made them significantly better in the 3.1 update. However, how are they against the best, most broken faction currently in the game right now, Bretonnia? We're going to find out in this replay from Menace. And yeah, let's see what he's got. So by design, this build is going to be relatively small. We've got the Kadai Destroyer, of course, the big bad. And it is quite good now. I mean, the leadership overall was buffed, and I think this Unbreakable effect now depletes at 25% HP. Yeah, only 25% HP, which is much better. I think it was 50% before. And the higher leadership also prevents it from just getting leadership shocked immediately once it does hit that threshold. It's also got some other nice abilities here. The physical resistance in general is quite nice when paired with a what is this thing? Lamasu, that's right. This thing does remove magical attacks, of course, and with Jatan the Black up on top, he's also got access to nets, and a couple of bound spells as well, of course, Enfeebling Foe and the Withering. Magical attacks also help against Bretonian targets that have physical resistance, although it does lack armor-piercing damage. Not too much of an issue, but definitely that removal of magical damage might come into handy here, although it does require Zatan to fight near the Kadai. We've also got a caster here, of course, the Demonsmith Sorcerer of Hashut. This is going to be another potential massive damage source. This Flames of Asgore bombardment is still quite good, especially against blobbed up high-value units. Cavalry tend to take a lot of damage from these sort of multi-missile bombardments, such as Searing Doom. Or in this case, Flames of Asgore, of course, pops out of the ground and then rains back down for double damage. So should be pretty good here. It's also got Reforged to be able to heal the Kadai, and Flaming Breath, of course, from its mount, the Bale Taurus. So going to be quite good as well with armor-piercing flaming damage in melee. Got 3 Bull Centaurs for some heavy support, and then just lots of meat shield infantry, including a single Orc and 4 Goblin Laborers. As for Bretonnia, Rapont's going to be leading the way on foot alongside Felix, which is an interesting choice. I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of it, but there is Lore of Life as well, and 3 Grail Knights, so a lot of elite cavalry spend here. Should be quite effective. We've also got some Battle Pilgrims and some Foot Squires, yeah, mixed in here, some Men-at-Arms as well. So yeah, then just general mixed infantry. Not too much anti-large, actually. I don't see, yeah, in fact, no anti-large in the infantry. But a couple of Grail relics to support leadership, so let's get things rolling. It is going to be quite a horde. Discrepancy in model count is pretty extreme here, almost 2 to 1, with very high numbers on the Bretonian side because of all those peasants. But, of course, laborers will trade reasonably decent, especially with big terror units in support. It is going to be pretty important, though, that Menace takes out these Grail relics so that he can actually terrify away units quickly. Even though the Grail relics are pretty cheap, it kind of feels bad to attack them in such a manner, but initially he does kind of spread his big monsters out a little bit here, charging into some different pockets to support the laborers against the peasants. The Bull Centaurs are also just kind of hanging back for the time being, and the Grail Knights are taking a pretty wide flanking attack here, maybe a little bit unnecessarily wide, if I'm being honest, but yeah, we've also got this other Grail Knight just kind of sitting in reserve in the back line here. Grail Relic does overextend and is punished pretty heavily immediately. Then these Grail Knights start to come in and just work through the laborers. I mean, of course, they can just punch straight through and get into the back line. Not really care at all about the laborers, so it's pretty decent. Over here, we get a straight engagement between Grail Knights and the Bull Centaurs, which is going to go very badly for the Bulls. Although Jatan now charges in. We see the net there. The Sorcerer also appears to charge, but nope, it's going to unleash a Flames of Asgore here. So yeah, just like I said, once they get bunched up around those single entities, these Grail Knights can become very tempting targets for that double bombardment. And it comes in and does a huge amount of damage. Granted, he did have to sacrifice a full unit of Bull Centaurs, but, you know, half HP off one, 3/4 off the other. It's definitely a worthy trade. Meanwhile, over here, these Bull Centaurs and these Grail Knights are also trading. Bull Centaurs taking the worst end of that engagement, but the Grail Knights that survived that bombardment are going to charge over and try and unify and sort of form up a nice death squad here, which is definitely the right call. The problem with having Rapunzel on foot is that she can't come support this engagement. I mean, her support abilities are quite good, and it's not that expensive to take her on horse. I mean, I think it would be worth cutting even one of these men-at-arms with shields just to be able to have her have some mobility, able to run around with the Grail Knights. They're by far the most expensive unit, so that extra, you know, plus 10 melee defense obviously wouldn't have helped against the spell, but just in general would be quite good here. yeah, that fleur-de-lis banner is just awesome for supporting cavalry units especially, so would have liked to have seen her on horseback kind of supporting there, but the Bretonnian horde is still ongoing, even with the damage to the Grail Knights. Of course, they can also heal Sibor from the Lore of Life, so they're not completely done yet, and it did cost significant resources for the, I say significant resources, really just a couple of Bull Centaurs, which is significant resources, to be fair. But, yeah, the single entities are all still doing quite well. The Kadai Destroyers just kind of been grinding through infantry right now. I haven't really been fighting too close, as, you know, it's... two characters have been supporting the Bull Centaurs in that mobile engagement, but now the Kadai just has to kind of grind through a bunch of this infantry. And if it can come support this, which is a smart kind of snipe attempt on the Lore of Life caster, she gets up and runs away as the Death Ball of Grail Knights is going to try and just pummel Demon Smith here. Yeah, the Zatan is fighting close, though, relatively speaking, so if I can pull up this unit card here and actually check the AoE of this ability here. 20 meters, okay, so it is a relatively small AoE. He has to be essentially right next to the Kadai, but we're going to see another Flames of Asgore here. This time the Grail Knights are able to somewhat avoid the damage, but quite a few models actually still do get caught up there and take another big dose of damage. So let's see, right now things are looking pretty good for the Chaos Dwarfs, although their army is looking pretty thin, but again, more healing on those Grail Knights, and if they can actually fight near Rapunzel, that will definitely give them a big benefit. Taking out the healer, though, for the Chaos Dwarfs is definitely a great call. A little bit of breath attack here. Not the best contact on those men-at-arms, but it's, you know, better to use it than just completely forget about it, right? These Bull Centaurs, once again, going to get charged at by Grail Knights, and even weakened as they are, man, those Bull Centaurs still take a massive amount of damage. Both flying single entities have to charge in for the Chaos Dwarfs. Try and salvage the situation. A lot of Bretonnian support infantry as well, although none of them being anti-large is a problem, I would generally say. You want at least a couple of spears mixed in pretty much any infantry composition unless you're fighting actual Order Dwarfs, but in this matchup, Bull Centaurs are prevalent enough that I would definitely bring some anti-large infantry from Bretonnia's perspective, but anyway. Yeah, the Grail Knights are pretty much finished, which is quite impressive. Goes to show the power of that bombardment spell. And yeah, the Demon Smith Sorcerer is up to 35-22 on value. So the Kadai itself, not very much value. Tactically, it's been a great just kind of anchor piece, though. Has taken relatively little damage, and oh, look at that cool attack animation. You know, I actually haven't seen too many of this thing's attack animations because it hasn't been all that great for most of its release, but let's watch it kind of pummel through some of these peasants here as it appears to try and seek out the specific target. Who's that, Rapunzel, perhaps? Yep. And, of course, there's not anything with magical attacks nearby now, but if there were, like, if there were still Grail Knights alive, it would not be able to get through that physical resistance, which is charged up to 14%, so, yeah, this blazing body here seems to charge up relatively slowly, considering this thing spent quite a bit of time in combat already, and the intensity is still only 46%. I do feel like a lot of these intensity-based abilities, not all of them, but quite a few of them probably should be tweaked so that they charge up a little bit faster. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about that in the comments below. I know there's quite a difference in, say, domination versus land battles in that one, where domination games tend to go on much longer. Units have a lot longer, you know, melee uptime, you could say, on an ability like that. So it's definitely interesting, but at this point it's just a matter of the single entities for the Chaos Dwarfs, and of course these few Bull Centaurs that remain, just finishing off what's left of the Bretonnian infantry force. So I definitely overspent on infantry, could have used some anti-large there. Don't know how much of a difference it would have made, but certainly I think some halberds, especially with Rapunzel's buffs and with a Grail Relic to shore up their leadership, could actually trade very cost-effectively into all this, and they're not too expensive either, so I don't know. I don't know about the Pilgrims, maybe? I mean, Foot Squires are pretty decent just in case they bring some armored infantry in this matchup, but Pilgrims are also pretty decent. I don't know. I have to think about this infantry composition a little bit to see what exactly I would change from Bretonnia's perspective. But yeah, 3 Battle Pilgrims is probably overkill. I'd probably cut 2 of them for halberds and still keep the 1. Maybe even upgrade it to the ROR if you have some extra funds. Yeah. And these 3 men-at-arms also could probably be spearmen, just, you know, to give you that extra little bit of anti-large. It's interesting composition, though, overall, and 3 Grail Knights is pretty serious. They all still are going to mostly pay for themselves. Only 1 does not, which is obviously impressive. But for the Chaos Dwarfs perspective, the Kadai did end up mopping up a lot of kills there in that late game, up to 300 plus, almost 30,000 damage dealt, and pretty much pays for itself, so that's great to see. Almost 5,000 damage value, though, on the Demon Smith Sorcerer. That Flames of Asgore spell is certainly still very brutal against bunched up, you know, elite value cavalry. And yeah, the Bull Centaurs are interestingly mostly sacrificed here. Only one of them actually pays for himself. And Zatan, while he doesn't do that much damage in and of himself, his utility was pretty good here. That net, especially, I don't know that the Bretonnians would have been able to... I still would have taken some damage on that. But I don't know if they actually reacted in time anyway with the one unit that was not netted. But regardless, it's still a good tactical decision to use it in such fashion. And then the meat shields just kind of meat shield each other, which is just fantastic. Seems like the peasants overall, though, were a little bit more cost-effective. Interesting. Let me know what you guys think about this matchup, though. It's 2 of probably, I would say, the best factions. I would put them like S+ tier because they both have different aspects that are slightly broken right now. But just in general, hopefully in the next patch, you know, they don't get nerfed too hard. But I would expect these 2. It just depends on what they change. If they don't change too much, they only nerf like the truly broken things like the Grail Knights and the Trains. Probably these 2 factions are still S tier. I'm not sure about that. We'll have to kind of wait and see when the next patch comes, whenever that will be. But certainly it's an interesting one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.